Because I really believe that despite the common refrain that everybody throws at you, the two things you must never talk about are religion and politics. That is why we are losing our nation. Because we stop being willing to step up to your neighbor and your coworker and your loved ones and say, religion and politics matter. And this is why our nation is floating away. Because we don't understand that God is sovereign, and we don't understand that there is a binding law in the United States Constitution. Right now, we are discussing health care reform of a health care system. It's all the rage. People are turning out at town hall meetings to say, no, you're not going to continue to take away my liberties. It's a knee-jerk, instinctive, I am not going to lose my freedom, bang, I'm fighting back reaction. And it's taken place all across the country. I'm sure you've seen it on television. Some of those in power are saying that it's a mob. Some of those in power are saying that the result of this is un-American. Un-American that you would approach your government for a regress of grievances. Un-American. It is the very essential part of our nation that our governed receive their power from the consent of the governed. That's us, we the people, everyday Americans. Until we have enough of a mass of people. Obama has talked about building an army. I agree with that, a civilian army that understands civics. There's your civilian army that understands civics and is willing to hold their elected representatives at the ballot box accountable to civics. So if you parse that little statement, I completely agree. We need a civilian army armed with the knowledge of the Scriptures and the Constitution. And failing to hold them accountable puts puts the pressure back upon us to take responsibility for why we are where we are. So simply going in and continually saying, well, I'm a Republican, so I vote Republican, or I am a Democrat, so I vote Democrat. Folks, we've got to put that type of philosophy away. We have got to say, I am American, therefore I want to hold people responsible to the law. And I am a Christian, therefore I want to hold people responsible to the Scriptures. When we do that, we right the ship. Freedom returns to the people, and the nation is blessed by God. That is how we right this ship. Failing to do so, you end up in a quagmire that is unthinkable. When I was in the Corps, I experienced absolute anarchy. I was in a nation off the Horn of Africa called Somalia. And we were sent in by former President Bush, the first, HW. And I tell you, I've seen it up close. It is a disaster. Surely our founding fathers understood there must be a form of government to govern a mass of people. But you see, what they also understood is that government really begins with the individual. Now, if I throw out there and I say, what's the most important form of government? Most people are going to say, the federal government. What's the next one? The state. What's the next one? The county, or the city, the municipality. And you work your way down. It is the opposite, and there is not 3, there is 5. The most important government is self-governance. It is over yourself. The next is the governance over your family. The next is the local government. Whether you want to go through the church, that form of governmental, and by the way, I realize I'm standing here in your church, and I'm here to tell you today, the church body, the Christian church body, has ceded territory. Because we have stopped doing many of the things that we are originally tasked to do and ceded that authority over to the federal government. You take care of the poor. You take care of the homeless. You take care of the unwed mothers. And of course we can just kill them so they don't have to be mothers. We as a Christian church, whole body, and yes, it is vastly different from community to community, even inside the same denomination of Christian church. Some are more proactive than others, but as an entire church body here in the United States, you can definitely see a trend where we have ceded the authority away from the church and the church's responsibilities to do God's bidding, and we have let the government take that role. There is too much government in our lives from a large scale. We need to turn that around and understand that it is, again, family, individual, family, local, then state, then the federal. I remember being interviewed, and I think it was on Michelson's show, Jan Michelson, on WHO. We were talking about the responsibilities of a United States Senator, and my opponent at that time was talking about how you can't just jump into being a senator. You've got to work your way through these things. You've got to learn about politics. You can't just become a senator. To which I pointed out, there's a lot of people who have just popped in there, and I think if they can read the Constitution, I can read it. You can read and understand it. And I said, I really believe that being a United States Senator or Congressman is by far easier than being on the County Board of Supervisors. So I got a guidebook. I can reach into my breast pocket of my suit anytime I'm standing on the floor of the United States Senate, and a bill comes up that says that we're going to give $32 billion to support education. Okay, enumerated powers. Let's see here. Nope. I can't do it. It doesn't matter how much I want to do it. It doesn't matter how much I think, gosh, educating the people is a wonderful thing. Let's spend the money. I can't do it. I don't have the authority given to me by the people. Now, in the State House, I do. Here in the county, I do. At the school board, I do. In the city, I do. I don't have that authority as a federal senator. So when that bill comes forward, I don't have to say, gosh, maybe that's too much money, and instead of $32 billion, it should be $30 billion, because we're spending too much money. No, I don't have the authority, regardless of how wonderful this is. And you see, folks, this is why it is so difficult for someone who has been in these, either in Washington or in Des Moines, to maintain these principles over a long period of time. Because I may very desperately want to rebuild the military if I'm serving at the same time that Ronald Reagan comes into office, and clearly coming out of Vietnam, our military was not the top of the line that, say, it is now. And I can be a senator sitting in there at that time, and I can say, got to rebuild this military, we've got to. Or in current time, we've got to secure that border. There is a terrorist threat, we must secure those borders. And somebody comes along and says, got that vote, I'm with you. You'll vote for this education bill. But you see, I can't vote for that education bill, because I'm rooted back to this, the Constitution. If you don't start being rooted in that, then I could say, yeah, well, educating is a good thing, and we could help the schools, and I can secure that border. I'll trade you for that vote. I'll support yours if you'll support mine. And you see, the very first time you do that, even on the smallest principle, it is so much easier to do it the second time, and the third, and the 19th, and the 35th. And all of a sudden, you look back and a decade and a half has gone by. And you don't really even know what your principles are. You see this whole healthcare debate right now that's going on, where you're un-American for showing up. They don't have the authority to do it. So when they come to you with their end-of-life service discussions, how maybe you're going to need to exit this world, when the bureaucrat shows up, you simply shut the door. Because you don't have the authority to be on my property with this. Sorry. I'm not going to talk to you about it. Bye.